Our movement is the most powerful movement on this planet to change the world. You are choosing to be bamboozled when the facts are right in front of you. The establishment has two heads, the obvious establishment and the not so obvious establishment. Our goal is to shatter the swarm. The swarm are those people who understand system science, and their goal is to maximize power, profit, control. The people on top who are doing this are highly, highly insecure people. Wikipedia is a racist, filthy organization which must support the narratives that all great innovations must come from the military-industrial academic complex. They invented email, period. There's no fucking controversy.
If someone's listening wants to live free, how does that look?
Well, number one, what you just said, do they want to live free?
I've been following his work for a long time. I've watched the lectures, I've seen the lawsuits, the censorship, the battles, and whether you agree with him on everything or not, you cannot deny this. He forces you to think. So today we're going deep, not surface level politics, not mainstream narratives, not performative rebellion. We're talking about what truth and human liberation actually means in 2026. So Dr. Shiva, welcome to the show. And before we go into politics and controversy, who are you and who is this conversation actually for?
I think we're going to talk about who I am in the context of many things, so sort of hard to encapsulate that. But fundamentally, I'm an engineer. I look at the world from a systems perspective, and I live in the intersection of truth, freedom, health. That's what I do, and we can talk more about that. And my journey here comes from a pretty interesting background growing up in India, growing up in the United States, but ultimately not just being a theoretician on what truth, freedom, health is, but actually living it every day and inspiring other people to do that by educating themselves on how these three phenomenon of truth, freedom, and health interact. And hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that. And you asked earlier about the invention of email. The invention of email is a wonderful opportunity to see how those forces, which I call the swarm, work very, very hard when one of their quote unquote own, like me, who's supposed to be part of the swarm, defies their narratives and exposes truth, freedom, health, and doesn't follow them at a fundamental level because I have no need to follow them and I stand independently. So I think the invention of email may be a really, really good thing to discuss as a part of that, discourse, because it'll really...
Because I know you're not just using those words as a slogan. So let's just start unpacking truth, freedom, health, and you can use the email that's a great example, by the way.
Yeah. So if you think about these terms, truth, freedom, health, and if we were to really sort of encapsulate what we're going to talk about is I'm hoping that by the end of this talk, everyone gets inspired to get off their butts, join the movement for truth, freedom, health, to actually take their anger, take their disillusionment, take their learned helplessness, and convert that to action in a very tangible way that combines theory with practice. So why do I say that? So truth, freedom, health may seem just like slogans, but notice there's no comma, there's no ands. It's truth, freedom, health, 3 words, which reflect fundamental laws of nature. I don't have a lot of time to go into all the details, so I encourage people to go to truthfreedomhealth.com to learn more. But at a fundamental level, there are 3 phenomenon which guide every system in the universe, either man-made systems or natural systems. And you could argue man-made systems are also natural because it's coming from us. We're part of nature, right? So anyway, what are those 3 phenomenon? Those 3 phenomenon that I uncovered and have probably articulated broadly to the masses of people versus it being in some ivory tower academia are called transport, which is a movement of information, matter, and energy. 3 things that govern everything, information, matter, and energy are the foundations of everything we see, touch, hear, and the things we don't also sense, information, matter, and energy. So transport is the aspect of the movement of those 3 phenomena. Movement of information. Me talking to you right now, that's a movement of information. Or you doing a podcast, a movement of matter, a truck taking, corn from one place to another. The movement of energy, your electrical lines transmitting electrons, you see? But transport is found everywhere. Right now, you're moving air, from the outside into your lungs, right? The second phenomenon is called conversion. It's a process of taking something in one form and converting it to another form. Again, a very powerful process, which also affects information, matter, and energy. So you're converting the words I'm saying, which are ultimately sound waves, mechanical waves hitting your ear, and through a whole process, they get converted to an idea, right? It's just sound, right? It's movement of air. That's a conversion process. The conversion of matter. You eat something, an apple, and you get energy out of it, right? That's a conversion of matter to a different form. And then the conversion of energy, you have all very interesting crystals in nature, which can take like mechanical energy and convert it to electrical energy, or vice versa. Those are called like piezoelectric crystals. So again, conversion is the other process. So transport, conversion. The third one is storage or structure, the things that give structure to things. I have some oatmeal I was eating earlier for breakfast. That oatmeal was made using a bowl. The bowl is a thing that holds the oatmeal. It's a thing that gives it structure. It's put on a stove, which heats it. That's a conversion element. And you have to stir it, right? That's the transport element. So storage is the thing that gives structure, your skeletal structure, your fascia. These give you structure if you are building a home, right? The structure of that home, right? Um, if you're writing, so getting back to information, if you're writing a book, the way the book is organized is the structure of the book, right? That's for information. Matter is like the crystalline structure of something, or energy is energy itself takes different shape and forms, right? That was discovered like statistical mechanics. Anyway, transport, conversion, and storage are the three phenomenon. I wrote a pretty seminal paper on this years ago, and these are three of the 9 phenomenon which control all systems. I'm not going to go to all 9 of them. People should go to Foundations of Systems. I figured out a way to take, an MIT PhD level program and distill it that anyone can learn it. But without the understanding of systems, you're going to be screwed. You're going to be searching here, there, following some idiot podcaster one day, following some left or right narrative. But those in power understand system science, and they use it to manipulate people. But these are 3 of the 9 principles. But these are the foundational processes: transport, conversion, storage. You'll find it anywhere in the universe. Okay. Well, what is truth, freedom, health? It is those 3 processes. You see, truth is a verb, really. It's not an end state. You're constantly looking at the universe, applying the scientific method. You think, well, I think the ball is falling to the earth because there's a dragon which is sucking that ball down. That was the idea, right? And then you go through this process of gathering data, seeing if your data matches your hypothesis. If it does, that's truth at a certain point in time. And it keeps getting more and more refined. There was a time when we thought that Newton's equations could describe the motion of particles. And it worked until a certain point. It was truth. Until Einstein realized that things moving at the speed of light have to be corrected with the Lorentz transformation, right? It wasn't that Newton was wrong, but it got more refined. Okay. So truth is always a process that you're constantly refining, but it is a conversion process, right? It's you looking at, assessing, doing experiments, applying the scientific method. So that's one element of truth, freedom, health. It's a process. Truth is not like it's done. Okay. And even if you look at the spiritual works and the great teachers, they'll say, you're always one step more to refinement, right? It's not done in the process. The second thing is freedom. Freedom is really the transport element, movement. If you don't have movement of information, movement of matter, movement of energy, which is what took place during the lockdowns, everything comes to a halt. Things are frozen, right? You could say during the wintertime, things move slowly, right? Transport reduces. During the summer times, things heat up. And then the last thing is health. You see, health is like the vessel that contains truth and freedom. If you don't have your physical health, if you've ever been sick, that's when you realize how health is probably the number one thing. You
Yeah.
can talk, you can talk about freedom, you can talk about doing science, but if you're unhealthy, you can't do any of those things. So health is like that oatmeal bowl, which contains a process of the transport and the conversion. So anyway, I've just given you a detailed thing, but the explanation I gave took me a long time to understand and make it this accessible. So truth, freedom, health is a movement that's founded on fundamental universal scientific principles. And if you don't have truth, freedom, health, you can't just have health. You can't just be a yoga teacher stretching and doing back bends and thinking you're healthy. But then when COVID comes, you tell everyone to wear masks, which is what a lot of people did. Okay.
Yeah.
because you basically are retarded when it comes to science. And then during the scientific period, there's a lot of scientists who are slobs, right? They're unhealthy, right? Freedom, you can be into the First Amendment, Second Amendment, but you don't know how to apply science. You can be carrying around a weapon and you think you have no idea of distilling or understanding how the universe works. So you think Trump is your savior one day, you think Obama is your savior another day, because you have no way to really approach these things from a system standpoint. So what we are teaching at our institute, and it's more than an institute, it's like a monastery and a ninja warrior camp. So you come here to learn theory, but we get you out there to educate other people. So it's not I'm just sitting as a scientist here, I run for office. I challenge the existing establishment. I fight in lawsuits. You see, you have to be both a warrior and a scholar. And that's what we're doing. This is not theory. We're not just podcasting all day, right? We're not just writing tweets all day. You can come to every Thursdays. We have a huge open house, but we get people on the ground to deliver solutions. And we actually have real solutions. We've created the global certification for what is clean food. Our movement did that. We have an entire institute to train people how to do health education. We have an entire infrastructure that came out of my PhD work that can compute biology, where we're looking at figuring out what products work, what combinations. So all these nutraceuticals are out there. There's a lot of bullshit. Our technology actually can figure out how the combinations of natural compounds affect a particular claimed health area, right? So our movement is the most powerful movement on this planet to change the world. It makes people honest, and it's not just about talking. It's about giving people a theoretical framework, because without theory, there's not going to be any change. You have to have the right theory to do anything in life. You can try a bunch of things, you know? You can try making a souffle 50 different ways, but there's probably one or two ways which really works, right? But you can waste your lifetime trying this and that and running around like a dilettante. But if you know the physics and the science, you're going to win. So our goal is to shatter the swarm. Shatter the Swarm. If you go to shattertheswarm.com, there's a quick whiteboard video I do, which explains who the swarm is. The swarm are those people who understand system science. And their goal, one of the other four elements of systems, control systems, I gave you three, is to maximize power, profit, control. Their disturbance, which is another one of those 9 elements, is those people who raise consciousness to understand that we, the people, have to mobilize independently, bottoms up, independent of left or right, Republican or Democrat, right? And who can see through charlatans like Booby fucking Kennedy, see through charlatans like Fucker Carlson, right? See through these podcasters who never say the right thing at the right time. They watch which way the wind blows, and they never, and they exist to confuse people. So, for example, you know, I've been very clear on the issue of Israel that anti-Zionism is not the same as being Jewish or Jews. But you will see these so-called anti-Zionists who steal a lot of my work suddenly starting to mix the word Jews in there because they are paid and funded to confuse people. But if they took a truly systems perspective, or they do, their goal is to confusion. Anyway, so without a deep understanding of how things work, you will be fucked. And if you look at our movement and the work I've done, we've always been right on the money every time, never off course, and always telling people the right thing at the right time. That's the important point, Morgan. Not if you tell the truth or expose the truth. When did you fucking do it? Okay? When? So we tell the truth at the right time, not to get views and clicks, but to mobilize people into action to avert human suffering. Tucker Carlson doesn't do that, aka Tucker Carlson. He's a complete CIA scumbag. Booby fucking Kennedy doesn't do that. Kennedy supported lockdowns, March of 2020, right? The entire Trump administration is made up of what I call the not so obvious establishment, because they saw people like me leading the charge at the right time. So, and they didn't want people gathering around us, which is true revolutionaries. So they create the fake revolutionaries to appease people to think someone from above is going to save them. And if you go to that understanding, you will understand why the invention of email and the facts around the invention of email is disastrous to the swarm. By the way, the swarm is a multiracial, decentralized group of people who are committed to maximizing power, profit, control. Jews, Indians, Hindus, Christians, left wing, right wing. It's one multiracial group of people who want to fuck you up and they want to subjugate you. It's not like the Rothschilds over here. It's not some group of XYZ people here. They're highly decentralized. Okay. But anyway, so the invention of email, everyone should know I invented email, period. In fact, what it reveals the invention of email and the fake controversy that was created, if people study it, will really educate you on the depths of the extremes people will go to manipulate blatant facts. So what is a fact here? What is email, first of all? Let's begin with what is email? Email, for example, what is Facebook? What is Twitter? What is text messaging? Okay. Well, email, I was the one who created the first system, named it email, and the first United States copyright, recognizing me as the inventor of email. Let me repeat that again. 3 facts that anyone can verify. All the receipts are there. 1978, I was a 14-year-old kid, very hardworking and smart kid, was very motivated. And I was working as a full-time researcher as a 14-year-old kid. So first of all, people wonder, what the fuck? How did he get a job as a full-time research scientist? It's not, I was some flunky trying to get the credit for email. I was a serious student, won every award in high school, you know? And that didn't just come from brown nosing people, from hard work. Okay, I was smart, but I also worked my butt off. But by the time I was 14, I was very interested in medicine. I had already gone to New York University, which is one of the biggest universities in the world, the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences. 40 students were selected to go to NYU in 1978 to learn computer science and software engineering in the high school level. I was one of those 40. In fact, the age limit was 16. I was 14. So I was pretty good to get accepted at that level. All of this is documented. You can go to inventorofemail.com. It's all documented. If I was a white kid with blue eyes, there'd be books written about me. And this is where the racism comes in. And there is racism. Okay. But those are the facts. So I was a 14-year-old kid, get accepted, 40 kids in the United States, to an elite program, like a Navy SEAL type program, to learn computer science. 1978, when a computer would fill up, a couple of thousand square feet, all the equipment. All right. So I finished that program number 1 in the class, all documented, learned 7 programming languages. And now I'm still in high school, and I have still high school humanities courses to finish up. I'd finished all the math and science courses, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I not only went to high school, but was given a job at a very small medical college, not Harvard Medical School, not at MIT, not at Yale, but a small medical college. So if you can think about this, 14-year-old kid gets a job at a small medical college. Where was this medical college? It was in Newark, New Jersey. And you can still look it up. One of the poorest cities in the United States, a lot of crime. Most white people are afraid to go into that city because you get mugged. Still today, predominantly African American, regardless of the politicians, black or white, they screw over these African Americans. And in the heart of Newark, New Jersey, a lot of crime, highly segregated, was a medical college. And in that medical college were researchers doing medical research. I wanted to do medical research because I came from a background where my grandmother was a traditional healer in India. And I thought, man, I could figure out how medicine worked, how she was able to do these amazing healings using traditional systems. That's why I wanted to work there to do medical research. And the medical research I did was to use computers to understand why babies were dying in their sleep, called sudden infant death syndrome. That's what I was doing. And in the middle of that, people recognize, God, this young kid, 14-year-old kid, was writing software better than the adults. I was in these organizations, Morgan, at that time. People communicated. I don't know how old you are, but anyone over the age of 50 will remember.
I'm 42.
Yes, anyone over the age of 50 today will remember the way people communicated in an organization, the office of the president, a company, or a medical school, was through 2 ways. They physically had a phone that was wired through copper wires. There was no cell phones. No one had satellite phones. Okay. Or you used paper. You You wrote letters to people. But these letters were not called letters to the Postal Service. They were within the buildings or the confines of the organization. They were called memos, MEMOS, memos. So Dr. 1, if you wanted to communicate to Dr. 2, you'd write a memo. But did he write the memo? No. He had a secretary write the memo because he was a doctor. There's a class system, right? So he would go to the secretary and he'd say, Doris, take a note. Dear Dr. Morgan, we're dealing with the patient, blah, blah, blah. We're thinking of hiring. And she would type it out. She'd sometimes write it. And then a couple of hours later, she would type it up. And there was a folder on her desk called drafts. She'd put it in that folder. And then he'd come review it, take a marker and mark it up, give it back to Doris. She'd write it again. He'd look at it. He'd say, this is good. She would take that memo, and now she had to send it to people. Well, who did she send it to? Was there one person? Sometimes there was one in the to field. There was a very specific field in that memo. It was a highly structured to, from, subject, date, and another field called CC and BCC. What did CC mean? It meant carbon copy. She had a typewriter. She didn't have a keyboard as we do today. She would take the letter, put it through the typewriter. If she had to CC somebody, she'd put a piece of black carbon paper and another paper, two things, and she'd type away. So she got the original and the carbon. If there was 10 CCs, she'd have to type 9 times. Xerox machines weren't there yet. Everyone following? And then she would, sometimes you would write a letter to someone, but you would BCC. You didn't want them to know that you're also blind copying their boss for political reasons. Okay? Sometimes the letter had registered mail. You wanted to send it to someone and you wanted to make sure they got it. A return receipt. All right? She had an address book, people's names, where it went, addresses, etc. She had a trash can underneath her desk. She also had an inbox where she'd receive stuff, an outbox. You get the idea?
I just see everything you're telling me in an email system right now.
They didn't have email then. This was a complex.
No, I know, but
right. So
what you're describing.
Right. But on her desk, it was a system. You see?
Yeah.
She had to have specific things, folders. It was a complex, interconnected system. Inbox, outbox, folders, trash can, paper clips, attachment. Sometimes you write an email and you have to put an attachment. Okay? Sometimes she did broadcast a memo. She could take a memo and create a group, all the surgeons, groups, contacts. This was a complex system. Now, 1977, 78, there were people working on text messaging, sending simple text messages like telegram messages between electronic and electrical devices. That's text messages. Bob, how are you? Simple text message. Bill, can you upload the disk drive? Simple text messages. Text messaging goes back to Samuel Morse, who created Morse code. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the simple transfer of text messages. That's over here. I never claimed to invent that. That was already doing that simple exchange of text. In 1977, a guy called David Crocker, I'd like to call him Crock of shit. Okay? So you have to understand, if you can close your eyes in that time, who had access to computers? Did Granny have access to computers? Did Uncle Bob have access to computers? Did the local secretary? No. No one had access to these kind of things. The people who accessed computers were old white guys with lab coats, with big, thick glasses, pocket protectors. And they typically worked in an academic setting or the military. And they were using computers to run languages like Fortran to compute the trajectory of a missile. Okay? And they had huge computers. They weren't like a laptop. There's no way a secretary could use that, okay? And these guys would write their commands in very complex coded messages called software programming, which too wasn't accessible to a secretary or ordinary people. Even in that medical college, I was 14. Everyone else was 30 to 40, 50 years older than me. They wore lab coats, glasses, that's what it was. I was considered an anomaly, but the doctor who hired me, Dr. Michelson, said, we're going to treat you as an equal as long as you show up to work. I had my little briefcase, a little desk, and I was considered a professional. at 14. And so I was asked to convert this entire complex system, inbox, outbox, folders, interconnected, because they called it the inter-office or inter-organizational paper-based mail system. That's what it was called, the inter-office system. And who used that? Secretaries who wore skirts, stockings, high heels. That's who used that system. You never saw a doctor with those white lab coats on the typewriter. That was a secretary's job. So understand this. Who wrote memos then, Morgan? It was a secretary. Now, in those old computers, you could send little text messages, but you had to write a very complex command. Okay? In fact, this guy, David Crocker, who claims he was a leader in electronic messaging, wrote a detailed analysis in December of 1977, and we found it when they created this controversy and we were attacking me. We'll come back to that. Said, at this time, quote unquote, paraphrasing sort of, no attempt is being made to create the electronic version of the interorganizational mail system. This guy was 30, 40 years older than me. Why? Because it is too complicated. So the thought of taking this system and putting it in electronic form, even these experts thought it was too much because you had to create a user interface that was easy. These guys were nerds trying to do calculations. Okay? So they thought it was impossible to do this. I didn't. And they actually had no respect for secretaries. They thought they were too stupid to learn how to use stuff. Now, because I was innocent, when I was given that job, I went to all these secretaries, and you can find it on inventorofemail.com. I made a list of all their features because they said, Shiva, we're not going to use your system unless it has all these features. They used to have whiteout, deleting, printing, groups. You'd have to have all these features because if they're going to move from the typewriter to the keyboard, they better be able to do all those things. That's a system. It's not simple sending of text messages. Text messaging here, now I had to create a system, okay, which had all these features, and it had to be user-friendly. So a secretary who didn't know computer programming could use this system. I wrote that in 50,000 lines of code on a computer. Mini computers was coming, which only had K of memory. K, 8,000 bytes. This says what? I think my laptop here, 16 gigabytes, 16 times 10 to the power of 12. I had to figure out ways to memory manage. I mean, the incredible shit I did. Again, if I was a white, blue-eyed kid, perhaps with a certain last name, I'd be on the stamp or something else. But I did that. And it's taken me years to talk like this because you're always taught to be humble and not take credit for anything. And that's the other thing the swarm does. When you actually do something, you claim your rightful credit, they attack you. They call you arrogant. They plagiarize. They change the narrative. But that is what took place. I converted that entire system, every feature, in 50,000 lines of code so the secretary could move from the typewriter to the keyboard. Never had been done in the history of humankind. And guess what? I named that system also. So I did all the features, and I named it email. And email was a weird word because the reason I named it was the computer operating system only allowed 5 characters. It was not an obvious term. Okay? Oh, electronic mail. No, electronic mail could mean just sending text messages. I called it email. And then I didn't have friends who were lawyers or parents like Bill Gates, the Epstein pedophile. I had to learn how to protect my invention. I applied to the Copyright Office. There was no way to patent software because the stupid Congress people didn't even know what patent was. But you could use copyright law to protect software, like music. I did that by myself. And on August 30th, 1982, I was issued the official document from the United States Copyright recognizing me as the inventor of email. So I have the document. I have the fucking code, which is in the Smithsonian. I named it email. You can't find it anywhere else in the dictionary. So who fucking invented email? I did. So why is there controversy on Wikipedia? Because Wikipedia is a racist, filthy organization which must support the narratives that all great innovations must come from the military-industrial academic complex. Unless you're white or you're connected with Epstein and somehow, that's a new part of this, and you suck Zionist cock, then you're allowed to be anointed a great inventor. Okay. But the reality is I invented email, period. There's no fucking controversy. The problem is I wasn't taught like Bill Gates to promote it. I was 14, came to MIT when I was 16, 17, got the copyright, but I was interested in medicine. In fact, on the front page of MIT, if you go to Inventor of Email, it's all documented. 3 of the 1,041 students who come to MIT, hundreds of thousands of people apply, 1,000 got accepted. Among that 1,000, I'm the 3, which means 0.3%, who's recognized. And the front page of the MIT newspaper when I arrived at MIT for inventing email. It's there. Where's the fucking controversy, Morgan? So a friend of mine, Kevin Ryan, by the way, very great entrepreneur. Kevin was running Business Insider. So that was 1978. Fast forward to 2011. My mother is dying of a horrible disease, a lung disease. 3 months before she died, she gives me a suitcase. She had saved all my stuff, awards I'd won, and all the documents of the computer printouts of the code, the computer tapes, everything. The technology editor for Time Magazine, Doug Emmett, still the only journalist today who actually went through the stuff, wrote an article called The Man Who Invented Email. I didn't ask for the article to be written. He wrote it. You can find it. Anyone can type in The Man Who Invented Email, Aya DeRay, and you'll see the article, front page on the online version. Anyway, the United States Smithsonian National Museum of American History, the leading museum, contacts me. I didn't go to them. I didn't want fame or fortune. And they said, "Oh my God, Dr. Shiva, we would like all your material." We didn't know this existed. It was like a new skull was found in Africa saying, you know what? The origin of human being is from here, not from here. So they honored me, again, all documented. Washington Post wrote an article saying Dr. Shiva honored as the inventor of email. And it went into the museum. Now, this is problematic for these racist historians because once you go into a museum, it becomes official, especially into the Smithsonian. And on that day, February 16th, which is coming up, I'll never forget these dates because they're very emotionally traumatizing. Because when it went in, and a Washington Post reporter wrote an article called, Dr. Shiva honored by the Smithsonian, the shit hits the fan. Now, you have to understand, I'm running several companies. I was teaching a class at MIT, the most popular class, elective class. And I didn't even ask MIT for money, unlike Elizabeth Warren. Okay, all these people. And when it went into the Smithsonian, the shit hits the fan. People say, how dare this guy say he's the inventor of email? Someone wrote the curry-stained Indian should be beaten and hanged. Gawker Media said this guy's an asshole, a dick, and a fraud. It was like vile shit. And I'm teaching my class and news is coming in. Thousands of calls coming to MIT. How dare this guy claim he's the inventor of email? Albeit I never asked for any of this. Now, up until my entire life, I've always fought for other people, fought to organize workers to get better wages, fought for women to get into MIT, fought against South African apartheid. All of this is, again, fully documented. But here I was being viciously attacked. No Indian stood up for me. No black leader stood up for me. No one, because, ooh, you're Al Gore. You think you invented the internet. And it took me several months and soul searching to realize, wait a minute, I did fucking invent email. I never wanted credit. Who's going to defend that truth? It's so fucking obvious. Here's a fucking code. Here's a fucking copyright. I named it email. So my friend Kevin Ryan, who was running Business Insider, he said, Dr. Shiva, what's really interesting here, it's so obvious you invented email. The issue is, why is there a controversy? Right? You have all the fucking data, black and white. It's not even, there's no gray area. So you're taking something so obvious and you're creating doubt. That leads you to understand, why was this being done, or want to understand. And what you realize is that innovation, making something, creating something, in my view, is central to being human. Creating something, making something is central to being human being. Okay? Let me repeat that again. Creating something, a piece of art, music, solving a problem, right? This is essence of human beings. We're not robots. We come up with ideas. We make shit up. We try things, right? This is being human. At the heart of being human is creativity and innovation. And innovation is in everyone's DNA. All right. So what has occurred over the last period of human history is that we've created stratification of humans. These people should only be cleaning toilets. These people should only be secretaries typing computers, wearing high heels and a skirt. These people get to be the anointed ones. They get to think. They get to grow little goatees and wear their, have their pipes and think deeply and go hang out on Epstein's Island. You see, that's reserved for those people. But the rest of you work for robots for us. You don't get to think. You don't get to innovate. You can go to Harvard and you can be a dropout. That's cool. You can be anointed as Bill Gates, who created an operating system, by the way, which he didn't, or Mark Zuckerberg. But surely you cannot be one of the plebes, the peasants who come from nothing and create great innovations. Because once that happens, that means these people are all human beings. You have to reduce people, degenerate them so few can control the many. You follow what I'm saying? It's very, very deeply psychological. Now, the problem they had with me was I never forgot where I came from. And I had a deep fucking hatred for these guys since growing up in India, where I observed the caste system. And they didn't know that I had been studying revolutionary thinkers my whole life, starting when I was 4 years old, that because I worked hard, I didn't owe shit to anyone. By the time I was 29, I'd made more than enough money. I didn't need to work anymore through my own inventions. Not because Bill Gates' mother met the head of IBM and got him a deal for DOS. Okay? Or not because I went to Harvard. I did it on my fucking own self. And this bothers them because I could stand independently. I didn't need to go suck Zionist cock or bow down to anyone else. I spoke the truth, right? Because I was truly independent. This is problematic for them. If you come from below and you speak with force and independence, you are no longer their fucking house nigger. Okay? So I got off the plantation. So the fundamental issue is that they're like, fuck, this guy invented email. And it was not done in the confines of the military industrial complex. It wasn't done at Harvard or MIT. It was done at a poor fucking medical college by a 14-year-old kid who was given nothing. The first 2 years, they gave me free cafeteria food. I was so happy to get access to computers. And the third year, I got paid $1.25 an hour. Okay? So that's the reality, you see? So if a 14-year-old, dark-skinned, Indian immigrant kid in Newark, New Jersey, before he came to MIT, invented email, which is probably the most important invention of our times, if not the top 10. What does that mean to go to all the people who go to MIT or other places? You see what I'm saying? Well, the reality is innovation can occur anytime, any place, by anybody. And I invented email before I came to MIT, but I invented many things after I came to MIT. Independent of MIT, if that makes any sense, because of my own wherewithal, my interests, my creative interests, etc. So what you saw occurring at that time is they started to rewrite the history of email. Now, the term was never used before I came up with it. They started branding shit that occurred before 1978 as email. This would be like you inventing the car, Morgan, and you called it the car. You created something and you say, this is CAR. Then they said, oh, the horse-drawn, that's also a car. It's bullshit, right? What they're talking about is a guy who changed 15 minutes of code, admitted he never invented email, simply adding text to a bottom of a file, a remote file, and he used the @ symbol. That's not email. That's at best a caveman version of Facebook or Reddit, right? Adding text to a bottom of a remote file. I created the fucking system, which we all know is email. So the controversy is when this story came out, Wikipedia shut down the page. They would never let anyone edit it because this goes at the heart of the issue. Where does innovation come from? Does it come from above, anointed by a few, or does it come from below? It comes from below because it's in everyone's DNA. So that's the truth of it. But the real interesting issue, as Kevin Ryan said was, why was there a controversy even? Why is all these people claim? I want to fucking punch someone in the face when they say, Dr. Shiva claims, fuck you. It's not a claim. I fucking did it, jackass. Why do you use the word claim? There's no claim. You don't say Bill Gates claims he invented DOS. Who is deciding whether to use the word claim or giving authorship? So the invention of email should wake up everyone to understand how fucked you are when you step outside their bounds. And they have a serious problem with me because I have that MIT PhD. I got 4 fucking degrees. I won all their awards. That's why I put MIT PhD to say fuck you to them. You see, if I didn't have MIT PhD and they claimed I invented email, you say you're just a kook, right?
Yeah.
But the only reason you're talking to me about this issue, it's through our own brainwash. You see, wow, MIT guy, just 4 degrees, right? So in many ways, I got their degrees and their certification so I could expose how fucked up they actually are. Because I didn't need to go to MIT, Morgan, to invent anything. MIT and these institutions were lucky to get me because now they get the brand. But with me, it's fucked up for them. Because on the one hand, I got all their awards, but I'm saying fuck you to them. You see? So this scrambles their fucking brain up. This doesn't compute. That's good. And the masses now watching this podcast should wonder broadly that anything that comes from below must be hidden. Revolutionary movements coming from below. Oh, that can't happen. We have to rely on Booby fucking Kennedy, fucking evil snake. We have to rely on them to save us. You see, that's where this is coming from. And that's why Truth, Freedom, Health and what I stand for is so dangerous. Because we're going down to the heart of the issue. Who are the creators? Who are the people who actually contribute? And the people on top who are doing this are highly, highly insecure people. You can throw me in a jungle, I'll figure out how to come out. You can give me no money and I'll create something. They can't do that because their wealth and their power and their prestige come from mama or papa or fucking around with Jeffrey Epstein. They're networking. Most of their time they spend is parties, networking, right? Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, who the fuck are these people? What have they created? Nothing. So the essence comes down to who are you as a human being and who deserves the fruits of this earth? The people work, the people contribute. So this is quite evil what's taking place. You take credit away from people who do the work. And by the way, Morgan, this is something quite interesting. You notice how these people always talk about credit. Everything they do is about getting credit. When an actor or a celebrity is negotiating a contract, who gets first name? They have lawyers who just work on my name, my credit. Or when you write a paper or write a book, they have agents. But when you rightfully claim credit for what you did, oh, why are you wanting credit, Shiva? You're arrogant. Fuck you. Your whole life is built on getting credit for things you didn't even fucking do. Trump, his whole thing is putting Trump everywhere, right? It's a whole machinery built on brand, right? The Western world and its values based on your brand. But they don't want you. But their brands are coming top down. My brand is coming from below. Dr. Shiva, that brand is something I created. You see? And it has a movement behind it. That's dangerous because you're not reliant on them. You see? So these are very, very deep topics. But they do not want people from below coming up and then furthermore asserting their right. You see? A friend of mine said, the reason they created this controversy or do this is because you're not willing to be a good Indian. I'm not willing to say, okay, you're right, I didn't invent email. Maybe I made a mistake. Fuck you. Right? They don't like that. Because again, the racism. If you're an Indian, you must be in this bucket. If you're a white dude from the South, you must be racist. Right? If you're whatever, right? They have these little buckets. And when you step out of those buckets, it's very dangerous. So, yes, I invented email. And the issue is, why is it there's a controversy when the facts are so black and white?
That's the question. I'm so glad that you unpacked that and went deep with it, because we live in a world with fact checkers, AI summaries, corporate media, and also alternative influencers, some of them that you mentioned. So even when, as I mentioned before we started recording, when I researched you, I saw the conflicting claims from mainstream outlets about the statement of you being the inventor of email. So here's the real question: how does a normal person, this is what I want to get to, how does a normal person determine what is true in 2026 today? Because I don't have the documents you have about email. Let's not use email as an
Well, first
example,
of all, wait a minute,
because
Morgan.
we're also
No,
living like
time out.
with the
We made all the documents accessible. You can go to whoinventedemail.com. We built
yeah
so much content that a fucking moron could see this now. We made it almost like a dummy proof. If you go to whoinventedemail.com, you may want to, when you do this, you'll see all the facts are there,
yeah
testimonies. I had to build all this shit. I never wanted credit, but when you attacked me and tried to take something away, I did. Fuck you. We built an entire site so an idiot could understand this. So there's no controversy. So
even though the information is out there, it is not necessarily true that that information is the most distributed. I
well,
think that is one of the issues here.
well, it's not the most distributed. It is what you realize is that social media is highly centralized decentralization. If that
Exactly.
makes any sense. Okay.
Yes.
It's the illusion of decentralization. And in fact, I would argue that the social media of today is worse censorship form than even the old idea where you had paper, right? Because now you can
Yeah.
centralize it. Well, you can write one algorithm. Anytime someone says Dr. Shiva is the inventor of email, can their account or don't let it distribute, you see? So it ultimately,
That's the issue we're facing, and that's why I'm asking, how do
there's
we
only one way,
like find truth?
whether it comes to truth or freedom or health, each person has to take accountability for this. Your own health issues, you can outsource it to a fucking dumbass doctor who's working like a robot. When it comes to science and understanding it, you have to do research. And then you have to build a community of people that have, you have to look at, wow, that person has consistently told the truth. That community has consistently told the truth. That's what Truth Freedom Health is. People at a very high integrity who have high standards. And so, it's a fortune for people to find that quality of a community of people to do it. If not, you're basically fucking lost. And you have to have a foundational basis to understand things. And that's called engineering system science. And that's why I teach it. That's why I keep telling you guys, go to Truth Freedom Health, get fucking educated or be enslaved. Because we live in a time without system syncing, you will be fucked. Because you can make up shit. You can have an idiot Joe Rogan. Overnight, the guy doesn't know anything about anything, is seen as some influential podcaster when the reality is he never tells the truth at the right time, ever. Okay? So it really becomes incumbent on the individual. Do you want to experience truth? Do you want to experience your own personal health? Do you want freedom? And then once you come to that point, what is the framework you're going to use for getting to that? That's system science. Without that, you're fucked. It's that simple. And then do you have a community of people who support you in that effort? And that's what we've created. So we don't try to convince anyone because our view is even if you get 1% to 2% of the world who gets this, it's going to be a revolution because the level of consciousness that starts vibrating with this knowledge is at such a different level that you affect indigenously lots and lots of people around you. You see? So why is it with, you remember in 2020, with just a stupid little laptop with my little thing here, we got 1 billion fucking views across all our videos because that was a period that the censors hadn't come in. We saved hundreds of millions of people's lives with the protocol I put out. We're the ones who exposed the backdoor portal to Twitter, not fucking Elon Musk, not fucking fucker Carlson, not Glenn Greenwald. In fact, they suppressed the news. We did so much because we were getting so much content out during that period. They said, it took them a while to say, wait a minute, this guy's not among left or right. We can't have this. That's why I do a tweet today. What used to get 1 million views per day, now it barely gets 10,000. Okay? Because from their perspective, you cannot have a guy like me out there. I'm too fucking dangerous to them. Why? Because I'm not owned by anyone. I don't take a left or right. I take a systems approach to everything. When it came to election integrity, I did find errors. And then these other right wingers thought, oh, Dr. Shiva's going to help us here. And I said, there's no election issues here. They were trying to use me to raise money. And this keeps happening to me, right? When the Alex Preety shooting took place, I said, this is wrong. And you could see bots coming on my account and attacking me, all the right-wing MAGA bots. So I don't give a fuck about right or left. That's why if you look at our new slogan for Shiva for Senate, it's got a middle
Yeah,
finger.
I saw it.
Yeah. So because this is the middle finger should say the middle works, working people in the middle, not left or right. It's a double entendre in many levels.
Yeah.
So I think we've worked very hard. I've worked very hard to develop solutions, the engineering framework. We have a global movement. So guys like you, Morgan, should go learn this, because most podcasters don't want to learn shit. They'll do a video with me, do shit, but they don't want to get down and get their hands dirty. The way I look at it is someone who's truly concerned about all these things will use the knowledge we have and their platforms to get this knowledge out there. Otherwise, this is why change is not going to come from podcasting. It's going to come from the individual understanding theory and being accountable for their own existence. That's it. It's that simple.
I hope podcasting brings some form of value for people out there.
Well,
but I
if
understand what you're
podcasting-
saying. You need to get your hands dirty as well. You can't just
so
sit
exposing
and
stuff is not
type on your
sufficient
computer.
if it's not coupled with action.
Yeah.
Right? So for example, the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Okay, you're exposing stuff, but mere exposition of stuff can lead to something quite dangerous and debilitating. It's called learned helplessness.
Exactly. You made a video about that. I really enjoyed that.
Yes.
that
So
one.
right now, if you think about it, this guy, Thomas Massey, is trying to act like he's going to be the critical path to everyone. And I just, I did a tweet which made it through the censors, because whenever I do a new topic, it gets out there until they change the algorithm. I basically said, this is not a release. There's no Epstein file release. Let's be clear. Okay. It's all redacted, and it's only half of it. Maybe even a fraction of it has been released. And what has been released is all blacked out. Then they said they're going to give 535 members access to this truth. Okay. But those 500, which are the members of Congress, 100 senators and another 435, and they have to go to a special room. They can't carry cameras in a locked room. These guys get full access. So that's like they're in first class. And the rest of the 300 million Americans are back in economy, in third class, like a third class train. They get some shit thrown to them. So Thomas Massey said, oh, I'm going to the Department of Justice. Please let me know what you would like me to peek into. Like, what the fuck is that? You're becoming part of the damage control by just doing that. Because you're saying, okay, it's acceptable. I'll be the lone hero. You see? So that's an example of systems thinking, lets you see through that. Other people say, why are you attacking Tom Massey? He's the one who got the Epstein files. I said, no, it's not about attacking him. The fact is, it's about we're going to fall into prey as Tom is doing his job. He's helping us out. No, he should say, fuck you. I want the unredacted files. He should take a principled position, period. You see? But
can you explain this further, also connected to creating martyrs? Like when Joe Rogan got attacked from saying that he wasn't going to take the vaccines, that he was taking ivermectin and other things. He was getting attacked. And then Russell Brand, he was getting attacked. And then you had Alex Jones being the platform. You have all of these podcasts. You have all of these so-called alternative media voices out there. Somehow all of them have gone through the cycle of becoming martyrs.
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 Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
can you explain what is going on
right, so
with that tactic?
If you take a systems approach.
Yes.
What did I say? The goal is one of the principles of a system. The system has a goal. The system of the swarm is to maximize power, profit, control. Okay? Who is their opposition to that is the raising of consciousness of ordinary people rising bottoms up, independent of any of them. Got it? So their goal is maximize power, profit, control. Now, if enough people said, shit, I'm going to learn shit on my own. I'm going to build my own local communities. I'm going to do offline passing out flyers, organizing people. I don't need to fucking have Joe Rogan tell me what the fuck to do, right? This is dangerous. So what they do, Morgan, they proactively create fake heroes, okay? Because they know that a majority of they want to appeal to the worst part of human nature, like the 7 deadly sins. One of them is laziness. So they'll say, you don't have to do it. Joe Rogan's going to take care of it. Alex Jones, Russell fucking Brand, disgusting human being, he's going to take care of it. So what they do is they actively, and all these people control top down. Joe Rogan's agent, is one of the biggest guys in Hollywood who owns UFC, who's, his brother and family come from Mossad, right?
Yeah, Ari
Ari
Emanuel.
Emanuel, yeah. Yeah. So do you think Joe Rogan is not in the? I know exactly where Rogan hangs out at Malibu, all the restaurants. He's part of the whole swarm, right? Wears a t-shirt, acts like he's one of us. Bullshit. Okay. Totally top down control. So they create, and they have a project plan. Okay. Today we're going to make Joe look like he's a martyr. Russell Brand. What? Because we need fake heroes. We can't have Dr. Shiva being a hero because he doesn't listen to anyone. He doesn't listen to us. We must have guys who attend our parties, who we know, who are our friends, right? Etc. So they create fake heroes, right? So you create these fake heroes to take advantage of the laziness of people. We don't do that. Our movement says, get off your ass. I'm running for Senate, but you know what? I'm not running. You're running. Don't think you're doing me a favor by voting for me. You get off your butt and you get other people to help. You see, very different attitude, very different incentive model. This is not about me. This is about your truth, your freedom, and your health. If you want to do that, you're going to have to do some work. We're inspiring in people much higher level of consciousness, much a higher level of action. They want to reduce people to, quote unquote, entertainment. You see? Sports entertainment, news entertainment, right? Everything is reduced to entertainment. That's not what this is about. This is about you, the individual, recognizing that anything that has ever changed positively for humankind has always come bottoms up. Always. And the issue is, do you want to take on that historic duty? And if you don't, fuck off. I don't want to talk to you. Okay? Because you're going to have to do some work. We as a movement have created the infrastructure. We made it easier. We offer courses. We have a team. We have a community, a global leadership. When you're ready, we fucking laid it out all for you. Do this, then do this. But we're not going to convince you to do something. And we're not doing something. You're not doing something for us. Do you want to do something for yourself? They pander to people. I'm going to do something for you.
Yeah.
You see? So that's a slave approach. Ours is one based on, do you want to get off the plantation? So if you go to truthfreedomhealth.com, there's a free course we offer. It's called Get Off the Plantation. And if you don't want to get off the plantation, don't even be part of our community because you want to be a house nigger, as I say. You don't want to get off the plantation. You see? Stay on the fucking plantation. So the good news is that attitude is what is needed, right? And you don't need a lot of people with that to make world-changing events. Enough people. In fact, a very small fraction of people, because their level of operational, where they're operating at mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, pierces through all the bullshit. It's like they have a laser, you see, of energy versus this concept of a diffuse mob of people, you see? So we're ultimately going to win. The issue is what that timeline is going to be, you see? But it's basically doing this very methodical process. There's really no secret, right? As you would do anything in life, you want to get healthy, you got to do certain things over and over again. It's the habits. So we're trying to form in people these right habits. Don't follow Booby fucking Kennedy. Know these people are part of the swarm. How did they get to those positions? They didn't fucking work hard. They came top down, they're anointed, right? Look at their backgrounds. Have some respect for yourself.
That is something that has been nagging on me for a long time. So if you zoom out and look at someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., on the surface, he looks like a freedom warrior. He's been featured in vaccine skeptic documentaries for almost a decade. That's where I first saw him. This was like long before COVID, and he's spoken out publicly against big pharma, big ag, and the corrupt food systems. And he's known for linking vaccines to autism and so on and so on. And on top of that, he's been heavily attacked by the mainstream media.
He's
So
created.
naturally,
He's a fake
it's
hero.
yeah. So people think like this guy must be one of us because he's being attacked, as during like the pandemic, like the people that were telling the truth were attacked. So, and you've got some major voices backing him. People like Joe Rogan, Dave Asprey, Brett Weinstein, Russell Brand. I can go on for days. And people who've built trust with audiences who care about freedom, health, and sovereignty over their own bodies. That's from when I've been listening to these podcasts for a very long time. Like the tricky thing is, and why I wanted to ask you this directly, you've been one of the loudest voices calling RFK Jr. out. Not from the mainstream angle, so we don't categorize you, Dr. Shiva, as like the mainstream mob, but from a different angle and on a different level. And you've said he's not the hero people think he is, but rather part of what you call the not so obvious establishment. So what is it that these people, like these, okay, besides of Joe Rogan, if we take Dave Asprey or Brett Weinstein, let's say they have a good intention with what
They
they're
don't have a
creating
good
with their
intention because
brands
they
and
all
their
want to
podcasts.
suck his cock. They're star fuckers. Okay, Brett Asprey, Brett Wine. Because let me tell you. So in Hollywood,
But they're also getting a lot of heat by promoting
yeah, but you know
Trump,
what?
by
Let me tell
promoting.
you how you want to judge.
I'm just asking if there's something
Yeah.
they're not seeing.
No. What? It's not they're seeing. They're part of the system, Morgan. So you need to, don't take this the wrong way. This is where the naivete comes in. Understand this. Hopefully, the sooner people get this, the suffering can be alleviated. These people are part of the machine. Okay? And you see, I've had exposure to these people that ordinary people don't, because I've been invited to their parties. I've hung around with the elite of the elites. One of their benefits that they give people is you get invited to their parties. You're part of their club. Okay? And these people are unwilling to let go of that. Okay? They get lots of benefits for that. Intangible benefits. And the way to judge a litmus test of that is if they are so anti-establishment, why are they getting still views and clicks? Just ask yourself that. And why, when I was a leader in all of this in 2020, would none of them, when people asked them, interact with me, put me on their shows? Ask that. And that will lead you, it's a material fact. These people, views and clicks, are never shadow banned. To the extent they are, it's part of the theater. Okay? Because let's be very honest, Joe Rogan is part of a Zionist machine. You don't get to be that big, and you're very naive, not you, to think that he's anti-establishment. Booby fucking Kennedy is as establishment as you can get. Okay? He's an actor. He promoted lockdowns in 2020. The guy, Albert Bourla, came to the White House. He thanked Booby Kennedy, Big Pharma. All right? So people need to get their head out of their ass and recognize that you are choosing to be bamboozled when the facts are right in front of you. The establishment has two heads, the obvious establishment and the not so obvious establishment. It's as fundamental as electron and proton. Okay? The establishment cannot survive without the not so obvious establishment. The establishment cannot survive with the not so obvious establishment. They have an army of fake heroes that they manufacture in their factories to fuck with your head. Tulsi Gabbard, Booby fucking Kennedy, Joe Rogan, fucker Carlson. I mean, it's a scientific reality, right? They have protons and electrons to keep their system moving. So don't be dumb. These people are top down. Where did Booby Kennedy come from? His family is the institutionalized, not so obvious establishment. Some martyrs, okay? John Kennedy, a martyr. He's a fucking big imperialist. Kennedy was the biggest imperialist. He had the veneer of the Peace Corps and USAID. But he did so many things to fuck up other governments. He was a prick. And we can go into a whole detail on John Kennedy. It's all manufactured. Okay? They manufacture heroes for you. I am not manufactured. I come from below. Malcolm X came from below. Martin Luther King was manufactured. So he gets a statue. Malcolm X gets a little road named after him. You get it? So if you're listening to this and you're an ordinary person who works his butt off, recognize that we, the people, we need to choose our own leaders from below, not be fucking lazy. Booby fucking Kennedy is not your friend. He has not gotten rid of the mRNA vaccine. Everything he does is a meticulous lie to appease the masses. Jay Bhattacharya, the head of the NIH, was writing papers for lockdowns. They stole all my material because they saw this guy coming from below. Whenever they see something coming from below, Morgan, they have to create a fake hero in that area. It's just like physics. And once that's clear to you, you won't be questioning this shit. Brett Weinstein needs to suck Zionist cock. He'll say enough shit, but he's part of that realm. He'll never attack Booby fucking Kennedy. Okay? Who are these people? Have they ever actually made anything on their own? Can they survive on their own? No, they can't. So these people are promoted. They need their NSOEs, you see, for entertainment, to appease the masses. But go do your own research. And if you don't want to do the research, then watch my videos, because I've done the fucking research. And if you don't want to believe me, go do your own research. Booby Kennedy put forward lockdowns in March of 2020. He never attacked Fauci. He stole my material and wrote the Fire Fauci book. I led the Fire Fauci campaign.
That's one thing about
So-
telling the truth at the right time, because I heard you talking about this like way before.
But why did I tell the
Booby
truth at the right
Kennedy-
time? Why? Was it just to get
Because-
views and clicks? No, because I want to fucking smash the system of oppression. So I tell the truth at the right time to mobilize people.
Mm.
They don't tell the truth at the right time. They wait 2 years later and write a book to make money, views, and clicks. Power, profit, control. You see? They don't tell the truth at the right time. I'll give you one truth right now on this immigration issue. You know, I've written a book that's coming out. I did some videos. It's called Deportation Theater. Fucker Carlson saying, "Where's the homeland for the white man?" He's a fucking dick. The reality with immigration is that the billionaire swarm, 80% white people, are doing white on white crime. The white worker in the United States is the most fucked over person. But not for the reasons a right wing says. For this reason, they are used by the white swarm, the billionaire swarm, to create hatred against non-whites and other immigrants, which is actually used to suppress their own wages. So the white working class in the United States gets fucked multiple ways. They think they're better, but they're not. Their wages are actually going down, and their wages are going down because they're made to hate the immigrant and non-white worker who they should be solidarity with to fuck up the swarm. So this thing about fighting illegal immigration is just theater. I call it deportation theater. That's a new book that's coming out. Why is it theater? Because there are 14 million illegal immigrants in the United States. Every year, whether it's Obama or Trump, they deport about 1 to 4% maximum. Okay? To create this thing. Oh, yeah, we're deported, but only 1 to 4%. Because if they deported all 100%, the United States economy would tank by $1.7 trillion, worse recession than 2008. And most of the illegal immigrants, they're in the 2 red states, Florida and Texas, okay? 30% of the construction work in Florida and Texas is done by illegal immigrants. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos relied on illegal immigrant labor. So this whole thing is bullshit. It's the billionaire swarm. By the way, it's very multiracial. They're all united, black, white, Jews, they all fucking get along, but they want the working class in the United States to be split. Fucking evil people. Evil, evil people. All right? So they create this theater, and that becomes a talking point. So even in Minneapolis, why are you going to Minneapolis? Minneapolis only has 96,000 quote-unquote illegal immigrants. Texas and Florida have 3.7 million. Why don't you go fuck with people over there? You won't, because you're creating theater. You have ICE fighting left versus right, and then people take sides. The reality is the United States trillionaire economy, and by the way, 400 billionaires, 200 in Texas and Florida, 200 in California. That's half of all the billionaires in the United States, worth about 3.7 trillion. They all rely on undocumented workers. They all fund presidents from Obama to Trump who talk big on immigration. But that's just to split the white working class. The United States economy will not survive if they deported all the illegal immigrants. It's dead. So you have to lower wages. That's how they make money. So how do you lower wages? You get the white people all pissed off at everyone else. And the everyone else, you're scaring them by doing this ICE shit. So people work for anything. So the wages go down here, and the white worker wages also go down. But his biggest way out of this is to unite with these people. But they create such hatred. You see, so it's a formula that they're doing. So that's an example of how the lie takes place. You look at the data, only 4% maximum get deported. But then you got another 4% coming in from the imperialist wars we conduct, fucking over other people in other countries, supporting dictators and regimes. So those people have to come here. So you have a fresh supply of fresh blood coming in of people to exploit. And then you send out 1 to 4% to make the white guys think their white billionaires are doing something for them. It's a fucking scam. Now, what I just shared with you, it's a systems analysis, input and output, flows, and you look at it and you say, fuck, I'm being fucked. It's white on white crime. So the left says, oh, we stand for the brown guys and the black guys. Okay. And then the right says, we stand for the white people. The reality is both are fucking over the white guy because they're separating from his brethren and they're lowering his wages. Meanwhile, the billionaires are making, they grew by 25% in value while people's wages went down by 20%. So once people fundamentally understand from a systems perspective, the swarm's goal is maximize power, profit, control. The biggest disturbance to that is a raising of consciousness of people to understand they need to build a bottoms-up movement. That's it. And if you're watching Brett Weinstein, all these fucking people who will never dare to put me on, you're just fucking stupid. And fine, I'm going to help you out of your stupidity. Learn some system science. You can go from being an unconscious incompetent to becoming a conscious incompetent. They want you to be stupid without even knowing you're stupid. I'm saying at least fucking recognize you're being fucked with. Now let's figure out how to get you out of it. If you want, you don't have to. It's up to you. But yeah, there's a army of NSOE people they have. An army of them. There's another Booby Kennedy being created as we speak. There's another Tulsi Gabbard being created as we speak. They have to have them, Morgan. So once that's understood, you'll say, okay, is this person an NSOE or is he a real fighter? And then you look at his background. Look at their backgrounds. Where did they come from? What have they actually done? What is their reliance on the swarm? Right? Are they truly free? Can Brett Weinstein start his own platform without sucking up to Joe Rogan? No, he can't. All these guys. What is Dave Asprey's fucking background? What is his actual background? Where did he come from? Who promoted him? You see, so you have to ask these fundamental questions. What has been his journey? I mean, since you brought up those two clowns,
So if someone's listening, and oh, by the way, we're going to put all of the links in the show notes if you want to go in and learn all of these things further. If someone's listening wants to live free, how does that look?
Well, number one, what you just said, do they want to live free? Number one, it begins with their decision. Okay. And to get to that decision, they have to come to a decision. Do they actually like the way the world is today, or do they want to change it? There's a certain percent of the population which is absolutely fine the way things are, Morgan. Okay. So that's the first thing.
So those are not our listeners.
Right.
They want to live free and they want to do something about it.
Right. So now you come to that point where you want to do something about it. What are the choices you have to actually to change the world? One choice, so one group of choices is what the establishment tells you what to do. Become a lawyer. Fight by filing lawsuits, right? Become a fighter for freedom by becoming a great lawyer. That's called the judicial process. The other process is run for office, become a politician, become a senator, become a congressperson. That's called electoralism, okay? That's pretty much what the swarm gives you, okay? So you come to a point, you say things are fucked up. I got to choose one of these two, or support people in one of those two. They never tell you the third one, which is the only force that has ever changed fundamental, which is independent, bottoms-up movements, period. And that is what we teach. You know, we have people really look at history. What is, if you want to change the world, what has always changed things? It's been independent, bottoms-up movements. Now, the legal process and the electoral process, we're not saying don't do, but only do those if you have a movement. Because otherwise, you're going to be co-opted by those two processes. So if you're just running for office without a movement, you're going to make compromises. When we ran for office against Elizabeth Warren, we had a movement, so we could go at her really hard. And as people saw it, it helped build a movement. When I ran in 2020, we had our movement. And because we stepped into the electoral process with the right framework, we exposed so much shit, the election integrity issues, the backdoor portal to Twitter. You see, when truthful people jump into those areas, we fuck it up for themselves because we're not in it to win the lawsuit. Even though we may win it, that's not the reason. You see, it's very different. But if you're there to win, like in the middle of my lawsuit, they were trying to compromise me. I said, fuck you, because I have our movement. So you do, not saying you don't run for office, you don't participate, but you're doing it from a position of strength. Whether you win or lose, you win anyway. Because you're using those platforms to wake up people's eyes. But a lot of these podcasters, they're monetized. They get views and clicks and all this shit. This guy, Matt Kim, he did an interview with me. He said, you know, Dr. Shiva, you're the only one with this kind of views or followers who's not monetized. All of them are paid for and bought for. So if your income is based on that, you're compromised. I don't need this as my income. In fact, none of my channels are monetized, right? I invent my own things. I have my own companies. We have our own bottoms-up movement. That is what people have to come to. So if you come to the realization you want to change things, guaranteed you're only going to be pushed those two. And within those two, you're then going to be further seduced. Booby Kennedy. Look at him. Yeah, he's got some problems. Yeah, he fucking was at Epstein Island. Yeah, his wife probably hanged herself, but you know, all this shit. But forget that. He's Booby Kennedy. Booby says some good shit. Or Fucker Carlson, right? Whatever it is. So you're, right when you get into that path without a movement, you're already starting with half a leg, right? You're already hobbling around because you're going to be compromised. Because those systems are systems to sucker people in, and then they bound it on what you can and cannot do. So the biggest thing for your listeners is, and you may not even know this because it is such a new concept, a bottoms-up independent movement. You may think you know it, but you really don't. And that's why we had to create our community, the courses, the history, etc. How did women get the right to vote in the United States? How did we actually get infrastructure in the United States? These are powerful bottoms-up movements. It wasn't like the government gave this shit to us or Franklin Delano Roosevelt. There were powerful militant movements that scared the shit out of the elites. That's the only way things ever change. It's not Thomas Massey releasing the Epstein files. No fucking way. So there's a science to building a bottoms-up movement. You want to build a house, you have to understand civil engineering. You want to build an airplane, you have to understand, basic Bernoulli's principle. You want to build a fucking movement? I've created that science. It didn't exist before Morgan. Just like I invented email, I've created the science of how to build a movement. So
this is really interesting because homeschooling at the moment is illegal in only 2 countries in Europe, and that's Sweden is one of them, and Germany is one of them. And that is the main reason why I want to leave this country. I love it here. I have beautiful family. I have friends. I live on the countryside. I have a hunting license. I eat good food locally, permaculture, all that stuff. having my kids indoctrinated really doesn't sit well with me. So how would I use, for example, a bottoms up movement to change? Is it to change one of those rules for homeschooling, for example, to change the system itself? Or am I building a bottoms up movement to, for example, move to another country, buy land, and just start building a whole new community from scratch or a city from scratch?
Well, Morgan, so here's the thing, right? We live in a very integrated world right now. You can't really run away anywhere anymore. Now, to the extent
Yeah.
you could go off grid and sort of say, I mean, this is getting back to the first question. Do you want to change the world or do you accept it the way it is? Now, the establishment wants people to get demoralized and go quote unquote off grid. So if you go look at the 1960s when there was a lot of movements, there were various trends. One movement was the hippie group. People created communes. They said, system sucks, I'm just going to go have my own commune. Find people, we're going to live off
Yeah.
the land. And if you actually study those communes, many of them were utter failures because there was no organization. They all failed.
Yeah, most fail. That's true.
So we live in a world, whether we like it or not, the inertia, the momentum of the world is we're an interconnected world. There's nowhere to run. You can't say, I'm going to have my little organic garden where there's shit falling from the sky from a guy from somewhere else, right? So it's illusion to think you can run anywhere, right? Now you can make yourself, like taking an aspirin, feel good a little bit. And I'm not saying people should not do that. Everyone's got their own mental capacity, but you are deluded to some extent to think that going and living off grid, I got geothermal, I got my solar, I'm living off grid. Really? Are you really living off grid? Okay. You're not. Okay. When you really put everything together in the modern world, we're living in a very tightly knit ecosystem. So you have no choice but to figure out how to change the world by recognizing we live in a cooperative world. And the issue is, how do you change that? A, you have to understand how that system works at a fundamental level, which is what I started this conversation with. B, you have to understand what are the things. There's a million set of things you can fight. Which are the things that are the most strategic so you don't go crazy, you see? And you see this as a long game. It's not going to happen overnight. The establishment has convinced people to think somehow things just happen overnight. Our parents should have done shit for the last two generations, but they were co-opted by the not so obvious establishment. And then they just sort of waited, right? Because the culture of building bottoms up movements was destroyed in the 90s globally. And the history was buried. So what we're saying is that is the only way, and it's not going to happen overnight. And that's okay. But when it does occur, it's going to be pretty explosive. And doesn't have to be violent, by the way. Because if you build a true bottoms up movement, the violence actually is minimized because enough people get it, they just come over to your side. The opposition has no one who's going to listen to them anymore. Who's going to fire shots? Who's going to do certain things when people's consciousness is raised? So it's fundamentally about raising consciousness, which is education. But what education? Math and algebra, sure, those are important. But the fundamental education is systems thinking. That's why I keep bringing it down to system science, systems thinking, systems, how the world is integrated. There's a physics to understand that. Now, I could have just taught 55 students every year at MIT, but I've taken all that knowledge I put together and made it accessible to everyone. And so you get on even footing with the same people that are advising the swarm. So that's what we need. Does that make sense?
What happens if we get this wrong? If people continue outsourcing thinking, outsourcing health, outsourcing responsibility, what does the world look like in 10, 20 years?
Well, I think, remember, go back to the central thesis. The establishment wants to maximize power, profit, control. If you take that, you have a world in Elysium for the few, okay? You don't need this many human beings. You have robots run it, and that's the way the world looks like. The world that it looks like for the majority of human beings is they're living hand to mouth. Their lives are really not enriched in any fundamental way. They live in quiet desperation as never before. And you won't have that many people because for the elites, people are a accounting problem. They're an expense item, right? You're running like a business. You got all these people that are not working. Why do you need them? Right? So that's the issue from a very simple black and white perspective. Human beings become, the broad mass of human beings become a problem for those in power. So the issue is those human beings who understand this or listening to this need to say, oh, fuck, me and my children are going to become obsolete. They're doing planned obsolescence on me. So what do you want to do about it? So either you can be part of that and you're basically going to commit suicide, right? Or you can say, shit, I don't want that. Let me listen to this guy. What the fuck is he talking about? Let me come to an open house. Let me learn more. Let me talk to these people, So that's where we're at. It's a very critical point in human
Yeah.
development because,
Yeah, and your stuff is not for US citizens only. I just want to say it out loud. So because I got 50% of my listeners are from Sweden, 50%, almost
yeah,
50%
I
are
would
from the
say, yeah,
US.
only about 40% of our stuff is US. We're everywhere from Singapore
Yeah.
to Australia, um, to Finland, Denmark, everywhere, you cannot, we're an interconnected world. You can't say, I'm only going to liberate the United States. No, you have to be global everywhere, every place, all the time. The world is 24/7 now. It's not,
Mm.
you know, things are occurring in one place.
Is there something you want to mention that we haven't talked about?
No, I think we talked about a lot. I think the main thing people need to ask themselves is, do you want to change the world? And if you do you want to understand that it is only bottoms up independent movements that change it? And then do you want to take accountability for your own life? And if those things are yes, then you're far along than 99% of human beings. And for those people, we've created a home, a community where people can learn and then go offline and educate others. It's really an educational movement. It's about consciousness raising, but it's not about some new age shit. It's not some religious shit. It's about just looking at the fundamental principles of how nature operates in history and arming people how to articulate, educate, etc. It's just blocking and tackling, man. There's nothing sexy here. But that's what needs to get done. It's like all of us get up in the morning, we got to make breakfast, we got to do this, right? You can just integrate truth, freedom, health into your everyday life. It's like you work out. Oh, let me do a little bit of this. That's what we're saying. And you have to learn what that is. It's like, remember before people made exercise a part of their lives 40 years ago? It was like a new thing. And we're saying is you have to make understanding how systems work and be part of this education. You have to integrate it into your life and not get dramatic about it. But you have enough people integrating this, the change is going to occur definitively. So attitude is important, right?
Love that. Where should people go to get in touch
Well,
with you, your work? Let's go through the links again.
yeah, so I would say one of the places is vashiva.com. Victor Alpha Shiva, SHIVA. The next place is truthfreedomhealth.com. That's the institute. Those two places then give you, depending on your interests. If you're interested in creating food systems, and you can use our certifications, a global certification, go to cleanfoodcertified.org. If you're interested in becoming a health educator, where you want to integrate Eastern and Western medicine and really become your own doctor, go to systemshealth.com. If you're interested in really understanding how medicines work, why I was able to predict that you have to boost the immune system. You see, it's not about vax or anti-vax. That's Booby Kennedy again is creating a dialectic. Pro-vax, anti-vax. No, it's about the fact that the immune system is a highly resilient system, and there are things you can do to support that resilience. It's independent of vaccine or no vaccine, right? It's about so he's on a dialectic and he's playing people. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, right? Guy's a fucking heroin addict, okay? But go to cytosolve.com, CYTOSOLVE. The infrastructure that we've created lets us look at, there are about 500,000 known natural compounds. There's about 4,000 drugs. If we look at those natural compounds again and start combining them, that's more combinations than all the atoms in the universe. So in order to really solve health, you have to figure out those combinations that affect health. That's what we're doing. So this is beyond AI. We're computing biology. And we're going after every major disease. And if you go to openscienceinstitute.org, people can support us there. You can be part of the science we're doing, right? So these are tangible solutions. Food, right? Truth, freedom, health. So you can start. Where do you want to start? Well, come to our open house if you want to be part of the community. If you want to learn about health, go to Systems Health. If you want to learn about different particular areas in medicine, go to Cytosolve. If you want to learn about food systems, go to Clean Food. So we have tangible solutions which are coming from the systems approach, right? If you want to support my running for office, go to shivaforsenate.com. So it's not like we're fully embedded in the world, Morgan, but yet we have this
Yeah.
foundational theory. So we're out there, but then we have a monastery, which is truth, freedom, health, and then we go out and fight. But you have both. You see, that's why we call it a warrior scholar program. But I've given you enough links. If you go to vashiva.com/orientation or truthfromhealth.com every Thursdays, and we do it globally at 11 a.m. It's for all of Europe on Thursdays. And at 8 p.m., it's for the rest of the world. So we've had to do 2 sessions, and we have leaders all over the world. So I don't, 4 years ago, it was all dependent on me. Now, I come in more as a mentor right now. So it's been great for me that I don't have to do all the blocking and tackling. I get to, be mentoring other people. But you should get involved,
Thank you.
man.
So, yeah, I've been involved before, and I'm raising 3 kids, and I want to get involved even more now after this conversation. And
And by the way,
I
people can work at
encourage,
various levels. You can do 5 minutes a
yes,
day. You can do 20, and it's up to you, right? We've created programs because we know we're all working people. We're not like stay-at-home activists. We're not billionaire trust fund
yeah,
kids. We have to figure out a way to integrate this. No, seriously. So the more
yes,
people just
yes,
integrate this, you can say, why? I did that. I did my social service. I did my citizenship work for today. You see? And then other people have different levels of commitment.
yeah, I love that. So all of the links going to be in the show notes. Personally, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Shiva, because when shit starts to not make sense, I always return to your information, your content, and I've been relying heavily on you navigating in the chaos that is out there.
Yeah, people should
So
also start, Morgan, with shattertheswarm.com.
yeah, I made a remake on that video. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
And
Send
I
it to
put it
me.
out on Twitter.
Okay.
So I made a remake with a little bit more like B-rolls
Oh, really?
and
Okay.
music.
Send it to me.
So I tagged you on X, but I haven't got a response from you. So I'll send it to
Yeah,
you.
send it because
I made a remake of the Shattered the
a
Swarm.
lot of stuff
I'll
gets
also put that in
blocked,
the links. I guess it did because I didn't hear from you.
Yeah.
But really great breakdown on that
Great.
video. So that will make a lot of sense
Right.
in how you navigate in the world.
All right, Morgan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. And anytime you want to get on this show, the door is always open.
All right. Thank you, Morgan. Be well. Best to you and your family. Thank you. Bye-bye.